Hey, what's up guys? John here. Some pretty crazy things are unfolding right now. A lot of people are paying attention to small and regional banks. People are paying attention to, what's going on worldwide. They're looking at the dollar, they're looking at things and saying, you know what, none of this makes sense. It feels like we're stepping into some pretty dark times. And, the more I dig into this, the more I look into it, the more I agree with you. And I think we are stepping into some pretty crazy times. At the same time that this is all occurring and inflation is skyrocketing, Joe Biden and the Biden administration are proposing a slew of new taxes nationwide that will make things much, much more challenging for business owners and middle-class Americans. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through what's going on, what you can prepare for, how you can do this, and what this could likely mean for the U.S. dollar over the coming few years as countries around the world are de-dollarizing. This could be a very, very bad thing for the dollar and a very bad thing for America as a whole. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube is going to share this content to educate more people about what's really going on. Today's video is sponsored by my company, GreatCreditFast.com. We specialize in helping investors fix their credit so they can get the best mortgages, they can do balance transfers, they can position themselves to get out of high interest credit card debt. We'd love to help you if you fit inside of one of those boxes. You need help fixing your credit so you can take a leap forward in life. We'd love to help you do that at GreatCreditFast.com. You can give us a call at 561-430-5900 for a free consultation. We're getting incredible results for our clients. Take a look at this. So Biden right now, top marginal individual income tax rates. This does not include city taxes or employment taxes or anything else, anything else. So California, 53% basically, 52.9%. Florida and Texas would go from about 37% federal to 39.6%. I mean, it's nationwide. You're looking somewhere in the mid 40% to 50% taxes. 45 to 50%. This is not including the inflation tax. It's about 1.5 to 2% a month. That's the real inflation. I know they want to tell you 6%. I mean, I don't think me and you are believing that. Probably somewhere around 16%, 15%. So probably somewhere around 1.5 to 2% a month is what inflation really is. So if you look at an earner making $100,000 a year living in one of these cities, they're taking home 55, 60K pre-tax if that's their net income, and then inflation's at 15 or 20% or whatever it is. Maybe they're sitting with $50,000 in income, $4,000 a month, $48,000. And that $4,000 a month, they have a basic apartment, $2,000 a month. They're left with $2,000. They have a car payment for $800. They have, car insurance. They have gas. They have food, cell phone bill. Before you know it, they're sitting with $300 a month, $500 a month, right? This is basically what's happening right now. But most people aren't in that situation because most people have credit card debt. We have over $1 trillion in outstanding credit card debt right now, and consumers, they have less and less savings now than they've had in many, many, many years. Decades. And so as this is all happening, they're doing something fascinating. They're considering to do something called a billionaire's tax and tax unrealized capital gains. So they're doing this, putting out this, this message to the general populace that, hey, we need to go after the wealthy. The wealthy are the ones that are causing all this damage to the economy. We need to tax the rich, eat the rich, all this. The reality is that's nothing except theater, and no wealthy, billionaires, you're paying 25% tax. They're not going to go write a check for, $500 million if they're worth $2 billion. They're just not going to do it. Instead, they're going to do more, like what Apple's doing. Apple, 0% tax. They set up in Jersey, and Jersey, on their $44.7 billion in outside income in the U.S., they're paying about 4%. 4%. So this is actually a great thing for a company like Apple at a time when they're talking about automation, eroding 73 million jobs, which is about 46% of the workforce. And why would that be? Well, if they send this message that we need to tax the rich, we need to tax the wealthy, and we need to increase the tax rate, the marginal tax rate on top income, what does this actually mean? Well, it means that people that do not have these tax structures, that aren't prepared, they are going to get eroded. And so as the quality of living starts to come down, and a lot of these large corporations are taking their business offshore, they're compounding money. They're protecting and preserving their capital. They're going to be able to come back in and buy things for pennies on the dollar, as well as infrastructure, and invest heavily into robotics and technology. This is all going to be a great thing for them. And so as this is all occurring, we look at some of these proposals, like from Tony Blair. Tony Blair is proposing a Web3-based universal basic income. A lot of people know Tony Blair. He's a former Prime Minister of the UK from 97 to 2007. Very big at this group here. So they're proposing to do a universal basic income, basically position everyone to where they have to have their hands out to get assistance, right? So if you have, credit card debt or high interest rate, adjustable rate debt, this is the time to get out of it. That's the last situation you want to be in, is on a universal basic income, if you don't have to be. The reason for it is if you have to have your hand out to get something and you have no other option, then basically the other party owns you. Right? But if you have the option and you can pivot, you can say, no, I'm okay. I got, this going on over here. I don't need your help. You have more options, more freedom, more power, more liberty. But you look at what Moody, they're cutting the U.S. banking system to negative, citing rapid deteriorating operating environment. This economy is going in a pretty dark direction. Inflation rose in February, but was more in line with expectations, likely keeping the Federal Reserve on track with another interest rate hike this next week. Despite recent banking industry turmoil. And so cost to service credit card debt, commercial mortgages, adjustable rate mortgages, auto loans, all these debts are going to get more and more and more expensive, and it's going to put more pressure on the banking system. So as all this is occurring, it's just very clear that America we're the target. Like this system in America is in very, very, very big trouble. So the surge is Biden administration simultaneously pushing to decarbonize the U.S. power sector by 2035 and move away from vehicles that rely on power plants. So as we're doing this, you have to remember, it's the petrodollar. As we're doing this, other countries are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. This is what I think is ultimately going to happen, is countries are going to continue to de-dollarize over the coming few years, and we're going to have a hard time selling our debt. If you were another country, would you buy American debt? No, most likely not. You'd probably buy energy, you would buy precious metals, you would likely take over infrastructure. You'd want things that actually meant something. Our paper fiat currency, backed by almost nothing, is worth very little. But you take a look at this. So BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, and China, but Mexico is officially applied to join. So you start to add everything in. You have Brazil, Russia, India, China, Mexico, and Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, Algeria, Argentina, Iran, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Senegal, Thailand, the UAE. All of these countries are applying to join BRICS. And so how does this whole thing play out? Well, it's not going to be a great thing for the dollar, as reports suggest that India has replaced EU, the highest importer of Russian oil and gas. And so for India, has been making the payments in rubles. With the U.S. sanctioning the Russian bank MTS, Indian oil traders are hopeful that Indian government will find a way out and prevent the disruption of oil flows and its payments. Indian banks have branches in Russia, and the payments are being made directly. So as this begins to happen, we're going to start to see this get worse and worse and worse. And gold is going to be, I believe, something that's going to be in very high demand for a lot of people all over the world. And I'm not like selling gold, or I don't. What I'm saying is, you look at what's happening in Beirut, Lebanon, Argentina. You look at what inflation is what's happening to inflation around the world, and what's actually going to be happening to inflation in America, because we're not going to tame inflation and get it to 2%. What are people going to do? Where are they going to put their money? They're like going to cash it in and try to put it in a store of value. In Turkey, in 2020 and 2021, they were buying iPhones as a store of value. Right? That's what I think is going to happen. I think that central banks are, on the front lines of it. They realize that, they're voting with their feet. Central banks rose its fastest pace in 55 years, right? And you look at, they're talking about the weaponization of the dollar. But you look at how, what America is doing, right? San Francisco, $5 million per resident. They're talking this universal basic income, print more and more and more money. Look at the bailout situation at SVB. They're just going to continue to print money. I think they're going to probably increase interest rates in the short term, maybe throughout 2024. But there could potentially be a pivot if there is a massive banking collapse, or if there's some situation which really calls for it. If that does happen and they do eventually pivot and they start moving in this QE, what's ultimately going to happen? People are going to be rushing away from the dollar. And that, I think, is going to happen quickly. What do you think about this situation? Do you think we're going to step into a situation where the world is going to de-dollarize? It seems like it's already happening. It's over 40% of the global population is already in BRICS, and we're starting to move away from fossil fuels. We're starting to move in that direction. drop it below, hit the like button, subscribe here, and subscribe also to my second channel. And if you would like help fixing your credit, we'd love to be there to help you at GreatCreditFast.com. You can give us a call at 561-430-5900. You can subscribe up in the top on Instagram for short form content. Catch you guys in the next video.